Alright folks, working on the truck today. We have got of course we'd already gotten the PTO on. We started on the shaft. Got a little more to do. We got to remount the filter. We actually changed and moved the tank out. Got a little more work to do on it. And working on the rear joint going into the next shaft, which is here, and the sprocket, which is number 60 chain. And I want to show you also, here's our pump and our U-joint for that. And I want to show you the difference between the U-joints I bought and what normal PTO U-joints look like. All right. Okay, folks, this is normal U-joint size. This is would be a normal PTO shaft. I think this is 7/8. This is I think 1.1/8 or might be 1.25 inches. And you see the joint. This is a slip, and someone's welded a piece on it to tighten it down. But my original plans was to use this shaft, and I ended up buying 1.25 shaft. I went ahead and paid up and got what I wanted. And here's my joints. So you can see the difference in the size of the joint and the size of the yoke. So everything's bigger. The shaft, like I said, 1.25 inches. And I want to run enough bearings up here because we got to make this shaft straight and adjustable, and to tighten the chain, or to bring the chain, close to being tight. We don't want it too tight. The other shaft itself was not going to have bearings on, only this shaft. We just ran into a problem. We bought these 1.25 color block bearings, and they're locking collar. So you would have a collar that went on them to lock them down. The problem is the collar fits on the bearing, but the hole was only 1 inch 90 thousandths, and the shaft is 1.250 250 thousandths. So we're 60 thousandths shy. So we're going to bore them out, and because we don't have time to wait, I bought them through Surplus Center. Surplus Center is a good company. They said straight up that they'd stand behind them, and I have no doubt that they will. The problem is I don't have time for it, and I just let them know that I was just going to go ahead and machine them and use them, and then if they didn't mind, to check their stock and make sure that they got whatever it was straightened out. So I just didn't want the next person to be in that. So we got us a nice pump. I think it's 23 gallons a minute, which is plenty for what we're going to do. And but we've got big cylinders, so, and even though we're not running a hydraulic winch yet, later on we might decide to do something with this thing. And we do have hydraulic winches to run, but we've got our chain on, just hanging, so I can get an idea where it needed to go down. And we're going to go ahead and try to get this done, this part of it done today. Just back to the chain. I'd love to be able to start it up and let this gearbox run and see how it does. I've never actually ran this gearbox. Came from a friend of mine, and he told me that it worked good, and I have no doubt it worked good. But it's been sitting for a lot of years, so we've got to need to go ahead and spray them, get our freewheels cleaned up. But we just need to check the box and make sure everything works okay in it. So anyway, that's the deal. Everything else is coming along, and I'll show you as we go. Okay, so we got in here doing some inspection for. Alright, so we put PTO shaft on. I put it on a hinge plate, and here's Nana back. She just wants some love and things, Alright, come back here and see how long this lasts. Here it is. 3 bearings, front, and then 1 on each side of the sprocket. Here's my hinges, 2 of them, and for now I've got 1 adjuster on, and this is a what is this, 5/8, and I'm going to put 1 more. So we'll have 2 of them, and them are to hold it in place, but not to tighten the chain. You know, we don't want the chain too tight. You see we got a little bit of slack in it. We might go a little bit tighter than that, but anyway. So I've cut the shaft off here. I'm working on a plate to mount the hydraulic pump on. You can see I got it cut out. I got to grind it. There's our pump. So I got a U-joint that goes on it. Slide on that shaft, and that'll be done. Got the fittings coming for this. This has got what's called a Code 61 fitting, which is a 4-bolt flange fitting, and then a couple other little things to do. We've changed around the air tank and got it moved a little bit. See my hinge plate. I used galvanized with that, and I wish I hadn't, but I couldn't get it to weld like I wanted. But I'm going to grind it again and weld one more time over it. I think it'll turn out all right. I mean, it's strong enough. I'm not worried about that. I just didn't want it to look so bad. And so I hooked the levers up. As you can see, I welded to them and extended the old original levers to some 1/2-inch solid rod. I didn't realize until it was too late. When you push on this lever, this drum turns one way. When you push on that lever, that drum turns the opposite way. I thought they would be the same. So when I hooked my levers up back here, which was quick and dirty, I didn't do a real thorough job back here because of I've just got it all tacked. But you can see my crossbar there. That goes to my lever and then comes down, and then here's my lever going forward. So that way when I move this one this way, this one goes forward and backwards. And they're working, but one of them of course works backwards from the others. And it's just the way it is. So we're going to start it up and we'll operate it, and I'll show you what it looks like. And that way I can't start it after I get the pump on or until I get fluid in it, because I can't let it run dry. Or I can start it, I just can't run the PTO. So anyway, let me show you what's going on. Okay, so along with working on the steam engines and working on the wrecker, homemade wrecker build, we have got the Cadillac engine taken apart. And I haven't filmed anything on this, but I'll probably film putting it back together. We ran into an issue with this. Had actually two intake valves stick open. These two. So wasn't sure what the reasoning was, why it done it, what was going on. And I pulled the head and I pulled the intake and everything off. And what happened was I had a lifter issue with both of them lifters, and it sort of forced the lifters apart, and then they wouldn't collapse. They were stuck. So, and they're hydraulic lifters. I know this is a Flathead, but it's got hydraulic lifters. It's actually got 2-inch intake valves, and I think they were 180, 190 exhaust valves. But what had happened was it forced the valve open too far, and I think it actually hit the inside of the head, but it bent the valves, the 2 intake valves. So I actually ordered a full set of valves. I think our main problem is just the fact that this engine was so daggone dirty. I pulled the pan of this engine and we got it cleaned up. I wish I could show you how dirty it really was in here. We've cleaned most of it up, but when I take this other valve cover off, I will show you, and you'll see that it's just terrible, you know, like what we used to call a Quaker State engine. So I had already pulled the pan off when I got the engine, cleaned it all out, and it was, you know, got it nice. But this engine does not have a oil filter, and even if it did, it would be a bypass filter. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to clean it as good as we can, and I mean really take our time to clean it and run everything through the bottom. Probably pull the pan back off, and then we're going to put a bypass filter, you know, in it, or on it to help out. But we're going to change the oil a couple more times and get a little bit of an idea of how bad it was from the looks of this lifter. This lifter, and I've got it pushed back in now, and this lifter here was the 2, and see, it's still out, and it's not going in, so we'll have to do some work on that and see what's going on. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, but the lifters actually came apart on it, so we're going to look into this and clean everything really well. As you can see, they come apart anyway, but it's just it's a weird setup. This one, well, it's stuck up now too. It's just not going down here, and they're supposed to be staying down. So we'll get this figured out. I mean, we'll replace them if we need to, but I want to take them apart first and clean them and see what the issue was with them, because it may just be a fact that there's crud in there and needs cleaned out. But we're going to clean everything out on this engine really well, take all the lifters out and clean it all, and I'll probably just replace these 2 intake valves. I ordered a whole set. I just thought it'd be best to go ahead and buy a whole set, so we'll check it out good. Now, we ran a compression test. That's why I knew I wasn't going to tear this down until I ran a compression test, and I had to buy another compression tester because this has got 10mm spark plugs, and I didn't have a way of testing it. So I bought a kit and then tested it, and I wanted to know exactly what the compression was on each cylinder. That way, when I took this apart, I would know exactly which cylinders I'm looking for problems with. And of course, that one was fine. It was just these 2 front ones. And this thing purred like a kitten, so that's the shameful thing. But the good part is, we can go ahead and put the 4-barrel intake on, put the 4-barrel carburetor on it, do a few, you know, little changing on it, try to get a little bit more power out of it. And I bought a KD, I think it's a 335 valve spring compressor, which is actually, it says Cadillac right on it, and I'm pretty sure, almost absolutely positive, that it's made for these engines, and we'll find out for sure. But I bought it so cheap it really don't matter. I mean, if it's not, that's fine. We can probably make it for it, because the way it's set up, it's set up a little different than most of my, you know, I've ever seen. So I think it'd be good for this engine. But anyway, we'll film putting this back together and take it for a ride. It's about time to get some maybe some flat black or something on it. And I've got an aluminum old school canister filter that's a add-on, you know, aftermarket. I think we'll add it on here somewhere and try to filter it a little bit. But you know, our main thing is we need to get it cleaned out as good as we can, and figure out what happened on these lifters. And I didn't turn it too high. I'm pretty sure I didn't turn it too high. I'm not quite sure what happened. But once you see this other, when we take this valve cover off, you're not even going to be able to see anything in it. That's how bad gummed up, you know, Quaker Stated it is, I guess you could say. So, and I'm not saying it's Quaker State that done it. I'm saying that the lack of oil changes is probably what done it. You know, when I got it, you know, and another thing too is I took this thing out and ran it even with the valve stuck, because I thought maybe if I put some Marble Mystery Oil in the gas and in the oil, and I put some down the carburetor while it was running, and I kind of figured that they'd free up if I could get it up to temperature, but I never did get it up. I couldn't get the engine to get up to about 150, 160. I mean, I never could get the engine to get any hotter. I probably could have if I'd have covered the radiator or something, but this thing runs so cool. You know, I'd have never believed the Flathead would run cool like it does, but with having the exhaust manifolds up here, I think I've explained this before to everyone, but the reason that the exhaust manifolds are on the top instead of down on the bottom, you know, on the block like a Flathead Ford, is the fact that here's the exhaust valve, here's the exhaust port. So that exhaust gases, the hot gases, I've only got to travel from here to here and then go out the exhaust. On a Ford, they've got to travel down past the cylinder and then come out the bottom of the block, and all it does is heat the sides of the cylinder up. That extra time that exhaust is in the block and, you know, heating up around your cylinder is, you know, enough to give you issues with heating. And, you know, they got 2 water pumps on them and they still have heating issues, so and cracking issues. So anyway, this is the most efficient way I think of doing it. I see my valve cover over here. This will give you an idea. There you go. That's just the icing on the cake here, looks like. So we'll get back on this as soon as we get some parts in, start tearing stuff down and getting it the rest of the way cleaned up really well, and like I said, get my 4-barrel intake on and do some changes on it. And I'll probably film putting it back together, even though we didn't, you know, film taking it apart. I just wasn't sure what the problem was, and I've never had a lifter come apart like that, but you know, they're not clipped in like, you know, clipped together like regular lifters, so it's kind of an oddball setup. So all right, appreciate everybody watching, and until next time, bye.